And then talk to me, Christine. So then you really moved up the ladder in a whole host of sort of marketing and commercial development roles. What was it like for you, or what was that big break to sort of like move into some of those more senior level roles?
Well, I mean, it was hard, I would say, because I wasn't cultured in the same way a lot of corporate executives were, going
Mm.
through, education, having an MBA. I was at Telemundo. I didn't speak Spanish, but before that I was at People en Español and I could salsa. So they were like, all right, cool, you're one of us. But I understood the culture and I understood people. I think I'm a natural empath, and I think some of my natural abilities really stood out in that way.
Yeah.
Fast thinker. I love to innovate. I'm fearless. So my brand is really like my personal brand, just who I am. People look at that now as like I develop a brand. I just was who I was. And I had to actually adjust some of my little rawness, because I definitely come across edgy and raw in some of this corporate environment. I had to get more polished over time. And luckily I had great teachers. But it was truly showing up as my authentic self is what helped me advance my career.
Welcome to Lead with Your Brand, the podcast that explores exceptional career success stories, inspiring and insightful personal brand journeys that answer the question, are you coffee or are you Starbucks? Fascinating conversations with leaders about their career breakthroughs from tech, media, and more. You'll learn how they've turned up the volume on their brand to unlock success. Firsthand, uncensored, and real, as told by people who've been there. And plenty of inspiration and practical tools to help you lead with your brand every day as you drive towards your next career breakthrough. And now, here's your host, personal branding expert, inclusion advocate, keynote speaker, and author of the book, Lead with Your Brand. Build your super premium personal brand to achieve your next career breakthrough, Jayzen Patria. Learn more at leadwithyourbrand.com.
Well, hey everybody, Jayzen Patria here, and you are listening to and watching the Lead with Your Brand podcast, which is the show for folks just like you who are looking to turn up the volume, show your value, and lead with your brand to your next career breakthrough. Well, I cannot believe it, but spring is in the air, and I am counting down to the launch of my first book, which is coming out later this year, entitled Lead with Your Brand, Build Your Super Premium Personal Brand to Achieve Your Next Career Breakthrough. Now, in this exciting book, I am going to be breaking down my 5 steps to lead with your brand. And in fact, if you have missed out on our previous episodes, I am going to ask you to follow, like, and subscribe to the podcast on your preferred platform, because you can go back to our very first episode of the year. In every single one of those episodes, I am counting down and walking you through and giving you a deep dive of every single one of those 5 steps, all the way from defining your audience and super serving your super fans to being your own chief marketing officer and showcasing your super premium brand. So make sure that you are following, liking, or subscribing to the podcast, and make sure that you're checking me out on LinkedIn. I'm at Jayzen Patria on all social platforms. If you happen to be watching the show right now on YouTube, you can scan that QR code and it'll go directly to my LinkedIn page, where I share tons of tips and tricks on how you can lead with your brand to your next career breakthrough. Well, I am super excited about today's show because I am meeting with one of my old buddies from NBC Universal. Her name is Christine Escribano, and she is the founder and chief design officer of Cherry Home Designs. She is an award-winning marketer, writer, and interior designer whose work is rooted in storytelling. But before we get to Christine, I want to talk a little bit about your brand. Now, I am super excited for spring. I've been out gardening, I've been pruning my olive trees and all of those great things. But even though it feels like we are having some great weather, or maybe even summer weather from where you are sitting, it actually feels like the environment right now is not blue skies. In fact, in many cases, I feel like we are at the perfect storm. Because when you go into work when you read the papers, when you get those push notifications, it almost feels like the sky is falling, right? We have got the cost of gas going through the roof. We are in international conflicts. When you go into work, we're looking at consolidation, changes in the way that our consumers are purchasing our products and services. We've got supply chain issues. We've got tariffs and trade. And we've got the AI revolution happening upon us. So there is no one that I am going out and talking to that is not saying my entire workspace and world is in flux and in change. But even though we're here at the perfect storm, I want to give you a little bit of a word of caution. Because right now it can be easy to say, I am going to bury my head in the sand and I am going to wait for the storm to pass. But here's the deal. If you bury your head in the sand, you are not going to be prepared for what is coming next. And even worse, you could be missing the opportunity to find your next big career breakthrough. Oftentimes in this bad weather is the place that if you're consciously, competently, and strategically thinking about your career, you can make pivots, changes, and adjustments that get you to that next inflection point. Now, I've shared this quote with you before that I really love, and it says this: a bend in the road is never fatal unless you never turn. A bend in the road is never fatal unless you never turn. Now, of course, that comes from Helen Keller, who we look at as one of the first really big advocates in the people with disabilities space. Now, Helen Keller lived 150 years ago, and boy, did she have a lot of bends in the road. For those of you who aren't familiar, Helen Keller, as a small child, became both deaf and blind, and her story is really the story about creating accessibility and about people with disabilities pioneering their way to show how their abilities can actually help and change the world. Now, Helen Keller wrote this quote 150 years ago, but it feels like it was made for today because we've got a lot of bends in the road. But Helen Keller basically said none of those are fatal unless you aren't turning. So now is the time to have your hands firmly gripped on the steering wheel of your career with your eyes looking up and out to look at the terrain. You might find this is a time that you need to go off on a different fork in the road. Maybe it's time to come off of autopilot and reflect on where you want to go based on what the landscape looks like. Heck, this might even be a time that you need to pull off the road and take a little bit of a break. But remember, if you're not turning with the road, if you have your head buried in the sand, you aren't going to be able to make those consciously competent choices. Now, people ask me all of the time, well, Jayzen, what is your best career advice? Well, I will tell you this. It is quite simply, you have got to find a hole and fill it. Let me say that again. You've got to find a hole and fill it. So right now, even if you're at one of those senior level positions, right now, even if you are super experienced and got all of those years of service in your core expertise, you still need to be looking out to find what are the potholes in the road and how can I fill them? How can I create a smoother road for my stakeholders, whether the internal partners that I work with or the end users and clients that we ultimately serve? Now, I give you a word of caution because not all holes in the road are measured the same. If you go out and fill a pothole that's over on the side of the road that no one really rolls over, you're not smoothing out the road for folks. So you've got to find what are those holes that actually need to be filled that are going to create value for the people around you. Now, the great way that I like to look at this is taking a look at the classic Venn diagram of your talents, your passions, and organizational needs. Because at the end of the day, it's all about choosing the right step, right? It's all about choosing the right holes to fill. Because ultimately, your career is a journey and it is a sequence of opportunities, choices, and trade-offs. Now, let me say that again. It's opportunities, choices, and trade-offs. Now, I know for many of us, we are always looking for what is that perfect career? What is that perfect role? What is the perfect thing? But guess what? We don't live in a perfect world. That perfect role is not something that you're going to have all of the time. What I want you to start thinking about is, what is the perfect role for me right now that advances me on my journey? Now, when you look at this Venn diagram, it's the intersections of talents, passions, and organization needs. Now, typically when I talk about this Venn diagram, I really start with talents and passions, right? Let's get really self-reflective and think about all of those great things that we have in our tool belt and in our heart. But during gray skies, this is where I think you need to double down on thinking about needs. And when I say organization needs, I want you to look out at your company and say, what is needed right now? What is keeping my CEO up at night? What is keeping the senior team up at night? What is keeping my boss up at night? Those are the needs. Now, that's a look internally. You might also look from a market perspective. What is it that our clients and customers need? What is it that is needed in the industry? Those are the potholes in the road that I want you to gravitate towards and fill, because ultimately it is about meeting needs. And remember, your brand really isn't about you. It's about the value and service that you bring to the people in your career audience. So right now, your homework is this. I want you to spend a good 10 or 15 minutes, go out, grab an iced coffee, soak in some of the great weather, but I want you to really sit back and reflect. Pull yourself out of the mix and say, what does my company need right now? What do my customers and clients need right now? What's going on in the industry and marketplace that is a need, regardless of where you play in that? You want to come up with that list of big things that are important to solve. What needs to be solved for? What needs to be fixed? Where does energy need to be focused? Once you have that, and by the way, you don't need to do it in a vacuum, pull in some of your colleagues, go and have coffee with one of your friends, talk about it, get some good ideation going. But you want to have a firm list, because then you can come back to the other circles of the Venn diagram. This is where you can put the spotlight back on you. Given what those needs are, what are the talents that you have built through time? I want you to think, what are maybe your top 5 or 6 talents or skills, right? This is knowledge, skills, and abilities. Those things that you can do, and you can do them well. What are those top 5 or 6 that might apply and help us out with the needs of your organization or your industry right now, right? So think about this. Those talents, those are really things that are probably on your CV. They're probably on your LinkedIn. So when I think for myself, I think like, what are my talents? Well, I have great platform skills, both on camera, on audio, and in person, right? Those are some natural gifts I have, but also they are skills that I've enhanced and built over time. I know that that is a calling card for me in terms of a talent. Now, if I flip it, there may be some that are less obvious, like I have a great talent for instructional design and actually building learning and designing events that help fit a solution set, right? That might not be visibly obvious to folks that don't work with me all of the time, but I know that that's a great talent that I have. I can take big strategic needs and break them up into an instructionally designed thing that solves that problem. Well, guess what? I might look at that right now and say, hey, given my platform skills, given my instructional design, what is it that people need right now? Well, heck, that's why I'm talking to you about this topic. I am taking my talents and my skills and I am applying it to a need that I am hearing from my clients and my listeners and the folks that I go out and talk to all of the time. I'm hearing that people are challenged with thinking about what's happening during gray skies. So I am matching up a need that people and companies are having right now. And I'm using my design chops and my platform skills to help fill that need. So after you do those organization and market needs, I want you to do an inventory. What are your top 5 to 6 talents and knowledge, skills, and abilities that you could apply to the needs of the business right now? Now, the second one is flip over to that other part of the Venn diagram. That third wheel is all about your passions, and we talk about capturing your passions. So what is it that you're passionate about? What gets you out of bed in the morning? Now, remember, this is all about things that you love, things that make you tick. They may not be about talents or knowledge, skills, and abilities, but they might align. So let me talk about some of my passions. You all know, if you've been listening, that I have a passion for teaching and I have a passion for helping people. Well, that's a great mashup because I have a talent around platform skills and a talent around instructional design, so I can make my talent and my passion for helping people come together. But guess what? I could have a passion for helping people and a passion for teaching people and not necessarily have those set of skills. In fact, I've got some amazing friends, some amazing colleagues in the learning and talent development space that share that same passion. But you know what? Platform skills is not their top talent. It is something else. It's data analysis. It is coaching, right? So those things show up in different ways when they mash it up. What else do I have a passion for? I have a passion for world travel and understanding different cultures and the like. So then I say to myself, how does my passion for helping people, how does my passion for world cultures and global audiences, how could that come into play right now? Well, you know what? When I talk to my clients, what am I hearing a need for is we're operating in a multinational global environment. We are bringing people together in very virtual spaces. The things that are happening around the world are impacting us in different locations. Well, you know what? I can take my passion for helping people and my passion for global culture, and I can actually infuse that as a way to help solve that need for my clients. Because ultimately, when you do this inventory, and the final part of that inventory is for you to say, hey, what are those passions? What are those things that get me out of bed in the morning? I shared some of mine, but yours might be spending time with your family. Yours might be particular hobbies or causes. It can be anything, but if you can list out what are 4 to 6 different things that you're passionate about, you can then go ahead and take a look at that mashup of where those needs are. Now, as I said, we're always looking for that holy grail of that job or that role that is the perfect intersection of your talents, passions, and those needs coming together. But right now, I want you to choose wisely. You might look at where it's just your talents that are meeting organization needs, and you're doing that for the business. Maybe you're really good at technology. Maybe you're really quick at learning new technology platforms, but maybe you don't really care about AI. That's not something that excites you. But guess what? You're looking out and seeing in your organization right now, everyone's talking about AI. Well, I want you to take some of those natural gifts and those talents that you've built around technology and learning and apply that right now and do it for the business, even if it's not your favorite thing to do. Let's take it on the flip side. Maybe you're really passionate about learning technology. You're passionate about new platforms, but you don't have hard technology skills. Well, guess what? that might be a stretch role for you to go and work on your team. Many of you don't work in technology. So actually using technology platforms like AI or machine learning or automation are things that are a plus and impacting the work that you do, whether it's in finance or marketing or sales, but it's not necessarily the core competency. Guess what? You might use your passion for technology, your passion for AI or different platforms as a way to have a stretch role that helps meet those organization needs. When you take the time to actually do an inventory, it is going to allow you to be in control. And guess what? Like Helen Keller said, you are going to be able to make those bends in the road. Now, ultimately, I want you to think about this in a smart way because we always hear this. Now, I grew up in Hollywood and they always throw this term around. You know what? I was in the right place at the right time. And while I think that's really true, what the real case is not only are you at the right place at the right time, what really counts is that you have the right level of readiness. What really counts is that when you're in that right place and that right time, you are actually able, either with your talents or your passions, to meet that need. Now, that's why it's so important to always be looking up and looking out, because people come to me all of the time and they're like, oh, I just saw this job posting. I want to get in on this. What should I do to make myself competitive for that role? Guess what, folks? If the job's already posted, you already need that right level of readiness so that you can click on that job role and be completely ready to hop into an interview. If you are thinking about how you fill the gap right now, guess what? You are not ready. Now, if you loved what you heard and you want to dive in more towards leading with your brand to your next career breakthrough, make sure that you are following, liking, and subscribing to the podcast wherever you're getting it. And make sure that you are following me on LinkedIn. I am Jayzen Patria on all of my social platforms. And if you are watching on YouTube right now, you can scan that QR code to go to my LinkedIn profile. I share tons of tips and tricks on how you can lead with your brand to your next career breakthrough. Well, I want to get a little bit to my guest. And speaking of LinkedIn, that's how I have stayed connected with Christine Escribano over many, many years. Now, I worked with her many years ago at NBC Universal when she was working in marketing and sales with advertisers at Telemundo, which is America's #1 Spanish language broadcast network. Now, Christine is the founder and chief design officer of Cherry Home Designs. She's an award-winning marketer, writer, and interior designer whose work is rooted in storytelling. Now, before launching Cherry Home Designs, Christine spent over 30 years shaping some of the most recognizable media brands in the world. She began her career at McCann Erickson as a media buyer before transitioning into marketing at Time Inc., where she worked across the iconic People portfolio, including Teen People, People, and People en Español. She later joined Telemundo as head of integrated and B2B marketing and went on to serve most recently as the SVP at NBC Universal, where she built and led a 60-person integrated marketing team across a dynamic portfolio of brands. And just the other day when I was going through LinkedIn, I saw an amazing, engaging post from Christine, and it was a video that was telling her story about transitioning from the corporate world to becoming a founder. It was so inspiring, in fact, that I'm going to roll that tape and show you a clip.
6 years ago, the seed for a massive career pivot was planted on the front porch of our Victorian beach house in Wildwood. What started as a side hustle didn't just grow, it completely changed my life. But let's start at the beginning. Hey Cherry fam, I'm Christine, aka Cherry, founder of Cherry Home Designs and Wild Cherry Furniture. For 30 years, I built an award-winning career in marketing driven by ROIs, KPIs, strategy, growth, leadership, blah, blah, blah. I was creative, but within limits, strategic by design. successful but not fulfilled. And then I did something that didn't make any sense on paper to anyone. I walked away from everything, from the titles, from the security, from the version of success everyone understood. And I opened a design studio, not as a marketer, but as a furniture artist and interior designer.
And we'll be back in just a few moments with my conversation with Christine Escribano, the founder and chief design officer of Cherry Home Designs.
Is your workforce ready to take ownership of their career, amplify their impact, and show up as standout talent every day? Lead with Your Brand is the essential suite of programs for companies serious about retaining top talent and building a culture of performance-driven growth. Based on a real brand marketer's toolkit, this 5-step system gives leaders and professionals the ability to build personal brands that stand out, speak up, and help them drive towards their next career breakthrough. Ultimately declaring, "In my career, I'm not a commodity worker like coffee. I'm a super premium brand like Starbucks." Visit leadwithyourbrand.com for more information.
And we are back. I am super thrilled about today's guest. I am reconnecting with my old buddy. It is Christine Escribano, who is the founder and chief design officer of Cherry Home Designs. Christine, what is going on?
Hi, Jayzen. The last time I saw you, we were in Miami together.
Exactly,
Oh,
hanging out
oh.
on South Beach back in our old NBC Universal days. But Christine, I know so much has changed since back then. And one of the reasons that I wanted to talk to you is you have made a big career pivot from the corporate world to being a founder of your own business. And I know in the last pod, we had a chance to take a look at the video that you created that I saw on LinkedIn and inspired me to reach out to you. So, Christine, talk to me. I know you are out as a founder, talking to people all of the time. What is the elevator pitch that you share with people so they know who you are and what it is that you do?
Well, I mean, I'm a corporate convert to entrepreneurship. I used to be an entrepreneur. Now I'm an entrepreneur.
Yes.
I, right. I definitely have always had the entrepreneurial spirit that I'm bringing to our 3 businesses, Cherry Home Designs, which is our interior design firm, Wild Cherry Furniture, which was born about a year ago, which is our custom furniture company. And then there's Casa Amici, which is our vacation rental brand in Wildwood, and it's all encompasses home. That's really everything that
Ooh.
we're about is making home feel like a hug.
Ooh, I love that. So the heart of the brand centers around the home and making it feel like a hug. Now, I've got to ask you, Christine, after so many years working in media, right? I mean, you were in publishing, you were in broadcast and cable television for all of these years. Like, why the shift? What went through your mind and how did you get over sort of all of those fears of kind of like unplugging from corporate to really become a founder?
I think there is a series of things that happened throughout my life, and my personal and professional life. And as we all have experienced, there often is a collision, partially because I'm a creative. Every day I want to be creating. I want to have ideas, and I loved that part of my job. And interestingly, as my job expanded and got bigger, it became more operational, more focused on
Mm,
leadership, more focused on structure and the operations and procedures of the team. And creative became less and less part of the day to day. So that was
ah,
just sort of inspired me to start bringing it into my personal life. So I bought a beach house in Wildwood, and that sort of was the spark, if you will, that started the whole unraveling of this transition. But it
yeah.
started a side hustle. And I always encourage that in my team. Like, if you're a dancer or if you're an artist, like always have something outside of your day-to-day work that is additive to who you are as a person, how you show up in corporate, and to your brand. And so this creative aspect of me being not only just an owner of a beach house, but the marketing person, the CMO, the chief marketing officer, then the design lead, and actually doing the work ourselves on the weekends just sort of kept evolving over
Mm,
time. And then COVID. And COVID, I think, was this massive transitional
yeah.
period for so many people. And my team grew to about 60 during that time. And obviously companies were in an evolution. Every day we'd wake up and not know what was happening. So
Right.
that the unknown was really the spark to, I guess, pushed me and encouraged me to sort of take a chance. At the same time, my daughter, my personal life, my daughter Eve was coming into her own and starting middle school in Westfield. And I wanted to be home. So that's when they started to say, well, we're going to go back. And I'm like, I can't do this. This doesn't work. And it just was at the right moment where both my life and the company needed a change. And, I was part of layoffs, but, honestly, it was a blessing, and I started filming our first show where we were renovating the beach house that we bought a year before that on HGTV, on Beachfront Bargain Hunt renovation. So I went from behind the camera to in front of the camera all in the span of a week.
Oh my
And that's
gosh.
crazy. And we were renovating our storefront. So we launched the storefront 3 months later, and it just spiraled from there. So everything just was born from that moment.
Wow. And it's kind of like, they always say it's like being at the right place at the right time, right? But for me, it's like you were at the right place at the right time with like the right level of readiness. Because, Christine, what I'm kind of hearing is it's like you've taken all of these skills, right? But you're doubling down on your passion, right? Like you love the creativity piece that you had sort of lost over time as you become a more higher level leader and executive, but it's also about passion about family, right? Like wanting to like not miss all of those moments. So I'm interested because I always feel like it then all comes back to like there has to be a need, right? At the end of the day, people have to be willing to pay for, your skills mashed up with your passions. How did you find that there was actually a need that this could be like a viable business for you to run, not as a side hustle, but as your main gig?
I mean, that's such a good question because during COVID, the need on vacation rental, it was a very smart investment because at the
Yeah.
time people were in airplanes. So short-term rental business was growing. We as a family wanted that experience. So that was really, it was drawn from a personal need of our own family, our big Italian family wanting to be together, annually for a vacation. Imagine 40 Italians in a house. Like that was exactly what we were after. Complete chaos. And we were like, maybe other people feel the same way. And the more I talked to like other friends and family, they were like, yeah, we can't get on airplanes right now. We're driving, we're taking road trips. What perfect time to do this than this? And we had a little more flexibility. Like I cut 4 hours out of my day from commuting. So I was like, all right,
Yeah.
let's start. And that's really, again, planting seeds, right, Jason? I mean, we talked about this all the time. You sort of doing like little things, little moves to sort of teach yourself new skills. And that's just what started to happen organically. I had a need, which was I needed furniture for our vacation rental at that point. And I met a furniture artist who did 9 pieces for me as the designer. And then I needed 15 more. So budget, so the necessity is the mother of invention, right? I
Right.
need furniture. I didn't have money or a lot of it. So I basically used Facebook Marketplace, estate sales, started buying a bunch of antique and thrifting. And I started painting them myself, used YouTube University and just started teaching myself new skills, furnished the rest of the house. And then that just got me wanting to do furniture. And the more people saw that, the more
Yeah.
I got to do their furniture because they had an heirloom piece from their grandmother. They didn't want to go, they didn't want to get rid of it and they wanted to find a new use for it. So
Mm.
that's sort of, it wasn't like I did a bunch of research like we do in corporate before
Yeah.
we just thought, see a need. It was really just sort of this like unraveling of an opportunity that I just kept rising to the occasion for. Like I just kept showing
Yeah.
up and another piece of information would open up and it just kept going and going. So, and in
Yeah.
my team, there are a lot of designers. It's a pretty robust area, or sort of, I would say a developed area that's saturated with design teams, but they all sort of had a very singular point of view. And I'm definitely a little more rock and roll. My brand has always been a bit edgy. And so I felt that there was something that wasn't happening in terms of people who embraced story and storytelling through home design. And that was just
Mm.
something I just observed from talking to friends, talking to clients. And that was born, the interior design business just started to organically grow from there. And it just kept growing and I just kept showing up. And then again, the sort of collision of a corporate transition to entrepreneurship just happened naturally. And I know that sounds crazy, but it wasn't just like a light switch. It was a sort of ongoing evolution of the career. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, it's even though for outsiders it might look like a light switch, I love your whole notion of it's like it's about planting seeds, right? It's
Yeah.
like nothing lasts forever, but if you're doing things that fulfill you, uh, right outside of work, then that enables you to have just more options out there. What has been the biggest challenge or what's been the hardest part about being a founder of your own business versus being a leader that's contributing with a whole series of colleagues in a much larger organization?
I mean, there are things that I learned in corporate that completely transition and translate to entrepreneur life.
Mm,
But more than anything, I miss HR. HR department. I miss IT. I miss my finance team. I miss having people that I could go to for those things that I'm not great at, and you hire a bookkeeper as a small business and, it's up to them and whether I just show up and, or if they give you the reports that I'm not great at math. I'm a creative, true, true. And, strategy and all the things that I had the opportunity to sort of, I would almost call my previous job a little bit more. I had a very narrow job, actually. Now my job is even wider than it ever was because
mm,
I'm doing the work. One day I'm showing up in pink overalls at our workshop with my furniture partner, Jean, and we're doing an epoxy pink table. And the next day I'm on a podcast or I'm on a TV show. And the diversity of what I have to do, but then I have to do payroll and then I have to do HR and I'm hiring people, and I'm training people. So the diversity of what I'm doing every day has become so expansive. And that is luckily, I had some great teachers in my corporate life, but the
yeah.
job is not one thing, it's so many things.
Yeah. Now take me back because you spent had a huge career that led up to this. And as an entrepreneur myself, right? It's like I always say I couldn't do what I do now not having had some of those experiences, right? Like
Wow.
all of those things led me to where I am now. So as you think back around your career, right, sort of growing up in media, growing up in publishing and like TV and cable and all of those kind of sexy businesses, what for you were some of those career breakthrough moments for you that helped you gain all of the knowledge skills in order to be successful as a founder?
Well, it's funny because I used to think a lot about brand, right? And
Yeah.
I think I've always fearless. I think my entire life was kind of a breakthrough. I was a college dropout. I mean, and I talked about this before, and it really blows people away because they're like, "How did
Yeah.
you do that?" Back in the 90s, I know it's like a long time ago, but back in the 90s, like, I grew up in a time where college wasn't the most important thing. Like, I really interviewed well. I worked really hard. I've worked since I'm 13. So I looked at my life and my career as a series of skill building because all of it
Mm,
just sort of led me to this moment, I believe, truly. But the first breakthrough was actually getting a job in media. And I got it at
right.
McMahon, and I got it without a degree, without experience. And I mean, the funniest thing is my first boss, Roberta, actually, my first memo, she changed 20 times. And I mean, I cried and we was there all night. It was horrible. But it showed me like tenacity, right? The more you
Yeah.
stick at something and keep trying, and then I'm just learning on the job. And I actually learned that osmosis learning is my vibe. Like that's what I
Ooh,
do. So I've self-taught everything. And that started my career in media. And then I pivoted to marketing when I realized that I have a real natural creativity for big ideas. And that's when I
yeah.
moved to marketing and seeing people. And a lot of it along the way was relationships and people who sort of trusted my work ethic and just saw things in me that were unique. I
Yeah.
was definitely a little edgy broken girl. People kind of like that. I definitely showed up differently in interviews. So that was career break number two. And then the next career break was going from publishing to TV. It was
Yeah.
not that many people in our industry did. And interestingly enough, the full circle moment was when the president of Telemundo at the time asked me a question: what was the biggest error I've ever made? Don Brown, amazing man, God rest his
Yeah.
soul. He asked me the question, what was the biggest mistake in your life that led to your greatest success? And it was at that
Wow.
moment that I admitted that I was a college dropout. And he said to me, well, I said, it might be the reason that you don't hire me today. Because at that time in the early 2000s, I was
Yeah.
7 months. I showed up to 30 Rock with my pregnant belly with this 6'5" man, and I'm 5'2". It was just so intimidating. And he looked at me and said, you know what? This is the reason you're going to get the job, because the fact that you're here today without a degree, as successful as you are, I am also a college dropout. So it's like a mirror to my life to see
Yeah.
you go from college dropout to corporate marketing person. And this level of success was so impressive to him because he did the same thing. Wrong side of the track. Kid grew up in a, blue collar household, and just saw himself in me. And it was just one of those moments, and I will never forget his kindness and someone who saw something in me that I didn't necessarily see myself. And
Yeah.
I got the job, and then I was at NBCU for 14 years after that. So it was
Yeah.
just an extraordinary.
And it's really all about, like, what made you unique, right? Like, that unique story and being, uniquely you is really what got your foot in the door there for a long time, right? And then talk to me, Christine. So then you really moved up the ladder in a whole host of sort of marketing and commercial development roles. What was it like for you, or what was that big break to sort of like move into some of those more senior level roles?
Well, I mean, it was hard, I would say, because I wasn't cultured in the same way a lot of corporate executives were, going
Mm.
through, education, having an MBA. I was at Telemundo. I didn't speak Spanish, but before that I was at People en Español, and I could salsa. So they were like, all right, you're cool. You're one of us. But I understood the culture and I understood people. I think I'm a natural empath, and I think some of my natural abilities really stood out in that way.
Yeah.
Fast thinker. I love to innovate. I'm fearless. So my brand is really what, like, my personal brand, just who I am. People look at that now as like I develop a brand. I just was who I was. And I had to actually adjust some of my little rawness, because I definitely can come across edgy and raw and from this corporate environment. I had to get more polished over time. And luckily I had great teachers. But it was truly showing up as my authentic self is what helped me advance my career. It's also what at times I think inhibited my development and growth. But at the end of the day, I look back and I'm like, I couldn't ever regret it, because I showed up every day as me. I showed up every day inspired. My team liked that about me, the fearlessness, the risk taking, pushing the envelope. I was the one they gave new businesses to. I was the one they
Ah.
said, hey, try this, because I had that element. So I built a corporate brand around who I was and who I am today, even still.
Yeah. So I love that, and let's talk more about your brand. I mean, you use these words like fearless, edgy, raw, right? Like even being a little bit rock and roll, even as a designer now, right? In the market and the clients you work with. Christine, give me three words that you would use to describe brand Christine Escribano.
Oh, 3 words. I can't. Do I have them limited to 3 words? No, I'm kidding.
You can have
um,
more than 3, but minimum of 3.
so
What
fun.
what what or what would you lead with when you think about leading with your brand?
I would say fearless, compassionate, and edgy. And
Ooh,
I think it's those things that truly make me stand out in a group of people. Also, I mean, there's some physical attributes like the short hair, the red lips, the rock and roll outfit. Like I was always kind of like in fashion. I just did try to embrace my whole self and show up as my whole self.
yeah.
Um, and that was again unique in the
Yeah, but it's
environment.
like the words and the music matched, right? So it's like
Oh
your
my God,
hair, your
perfectly.
styling showed up as edgy, right? Like without you speaking, it was already messaging that piece there. Now, Christine, talk to me, because I love that you say fearless and edgy, but compassionate doesn't always feel like it matches those two. So talk
Yeah.
to me about kind of the intersection or the juxtaposition of being both fearless and edgy, but compassionate at the same time.
Well, fearless and edgy is about what I put out to the world,
Mm.
and compassion is what I receive and what I feel when I'm in a room full of people. So I
Ah,
think that's the give and take in like being a human is that I show up as me and I am edgy and I'm, authentic and I'm all myself, but I also have to be aware and empathetic to the audience that's receiving me and how I then find compassion for their own lived experience, and reflect back,
Yeah.
and I well, that with if I like people used to say authenticity and like Chris, you're authentic. And I'm like, yeah, but like that's about me. Compassion is about the other person in the room. And I think that people matter. And I've always been someone, I kind of have a little bit people pleasing, believe it or not. I try not to be because I'm a rebel. So I battle in myself. There's an inner battle in me. But I think that's what really stood out to people is that they just felt that I cared. And I
Mm.
do. I care deeply and I care about people's experience on my team. I cared about how they were growing. I cared about their careers. I cared about their families. I really sort of approached my leadership style as a servant leader in the past. I mean, now it's a little more difficult to be that intentional with leadership.
Yeah.
I'm blocking and tackling every day or, trying to make payroll. It's a little bit more intense in that way, like it's survival. But, in the corporate world, that was something that I was known for and that really mattered to me.
Yeah, and so, I mean, Christine, what I'm hearing is you kind of this is the thread through your life, right? Like you weren't ever masking this, but you did mention that like there were times that you had to, adjust the volume dials, right? You had to kind of polish it. Talk to me about when you first kind of received some feedback or you first realized, "Oh, I might need to modulate without not being who I am, but maybe change the volume a little."
The best story, the hardest one, was a moment of reflection that I was forced into in a review with my boss at Telemundo at the time. His name is Darren. And he was one of those like hardcore jock athlete guys, older man. Loved my energy at first and loved the creativity. But there was a moment where I had my review and he said to me, Chris, people don't love collaborating with you because you move too fast, you're thinking too fast, you're ahead of the game, and they don't feel included in the ideation. And
Ah,
that was crushing to me because I did care so much about what people thought. But what it forced me to do was really unpack what was the drive behind my success. And a lot of it was fear of failure. A lot of it was me battling my father's anecdote to me when I was a teenager, right before I got kicked out of my house, that I would never amount to anything. And I
ah,
realized that all of my career up until that point, when Dan was sitting there and I was in the room in my review, feeling like I crushed the year, like I was like ready for success. I was ready for a 5-star rating and I'm
yeah,
getting like a 4. And I'm like crushed because I've always gotten a 5. Like, what do you mean I'm a
yeah,
4? And that was my ego for sure. And I sat there and had to listen to him tell me that the feedback he was getting was that people didn't love to really work with me all the time because I was just running them over. And
mm,
it was a reflection point. And it was the tipping point of a shift for me of saying I have to stop battling what I am not, which is I am not a failure anymore. I will never be a failure because I work too hard. And I have to trust myself and my leadership that he's telling me this because he cares about me. He's telling me this because he wants me to succeed. And that sometimes constructive feedback is the gift of a lifetime. And
yeah,
it was a shift for me in my leadership style and how I was collaborating with people, how I was creating. And I found a way to get my idea. So I worked with a coach who helped me
yeah.
'cause I get excited. I'm a passionate person, Jayden. Like you and me, we connected like that, right? We're always
Right?
well, so my passion had to be like not quelled and not quiet, turned down at moments to allow people to contribute before I landed the idea. Let them
Yeah,
feel part of it. And in a corporate that environment, it would allow me to get them involved and get them excited along the way. So I'll tell you, it slowed me down quite a bit, which is not
yeah,
necessarily a bad thing. But now there's no, I'm a bulldozer. I just go. Like I have an idea and I make it happen. Like that's the way I like to live and work. So I don't quiet that anymore. But it was really smart in that time in being in corporate to learn how to adjust to it not.
yeah. I mean, and it's almost like it's always about like what's the right behavior at the right time, but with the right level of intensity, right? And I kind of love, Christine, that it does come back to, part of who you are and part of your brand is being compassionate. So you actually do care about like how other people feel. It was almost just that gap that you didn't see that people felt that
Yeah,
way,
I
right?
cared more about getting the job done before the people, and that's what I had to adjust. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, sort of like what mattered the most. And as you become a leader, what matters the most is how you make people feel, because that's what they're going to
Ah,
talk about. They're not going to talk about
exactly.
the project that you did. Everybody forgets that, right? Years later, it doesn't matter. It's what your legacy is how you made people feel and how they felt in your
Yeah.
presence and how they felt working with you. That's the legacy. That's what you want, to be thoughtful about how people talk about you when you're not in the room, you
Right,
know?
and that's ultimately the brand, right? What's the memory, right? What's the experiential memory that you live with people? So, Christine, it also makes me really think, this was so much about like a self-limiting belief that so many of us have, right? Like we have these experiences where we're just trying to like survive, right? And for you, it was like, I got to win at all costs, right? I have a fear of failure. I'm going to just keep going. And like it gets us to a certain point. But
Yes.
then if we don't like rewrite the belief, it's like what's actually holding us back, right?
And that was that point. Exactly. It was that transitional point of like, it got me to where I was, but I couldn't go further if I didn't adjust it. I didn't fix it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, talk to me a little bit about, how has this brand sort of informed what you do at Cherry Home Designs? Like, how much of Cherry Home Designs is your brand, but showing up in the home space versus sort of a mashup of your own professional brand with some other elements? How do you look at it that way?
Well, it's interesting because in this world of design, like most designers name the business after themselves. Cherry
Yeah.
is a nickname, I got at work at Teen People when I was on a bus with my friend Janice and Andre, and I wore a cherry dress to a party with the sales team, and it had cherries all over it, and I named myself Cherry Majori as the bus captain. So it's funny because it was born how many years ago? Oh my goodness, I was at Teen People in 2000. So you're talking about 26, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And Cherry became my persona. And I have many nicknames, but Cherry is the one that I felt was the most fitting. And Cherry is me. Like Cherry as an icon, Cherry's red, it's sweet, it can be sassy, it shows up in pop culture throughout time. And, in the world of design, people hire you because of your name, because of who you are, because they want
Mm,
your design style. But because of my experience in corporate, really adjusting for audiences and actually like working with many different types of blue chip advertisers and creating marketing ideas and creative content for them based on their brands, I was so used to adjusting my brand and sort of learning about theirs and coming up with really cool ideas with strong human insights that I took that and applied it to my design business and said, no, I'm not going to make you, do croc skin wall and neon signs in your house. I want to help you discover your style and do
mm,
bespoke design. And that actually became, believe it or not, David, that was the difference and my point of competitive difference between my competition and my brand and our
yeah.
company. So we sign up for all different types of design. So you, as a client, you don't have to do, rock and roll leather studs and snakeskin. You could do, transition, timeless and transitional. We could do
Yeah.
mid-century mod. Like we can do any style because I'm a student. I'm a constant learner. I love learning. I love discovering, YouTube University, Instagram feed, algorithm has been trained properly to really inform myself about so many different
Yeah.
design styles. And I love it because I get to show up to a different Barbie dream house every day.
Ah,
How
I
cool is that,
love that, right?
right? It's
And
so
when I
much.
think about it, I mean,
Oh my,
Christine, it really comes back to even just those 3 words that you chose too, right? It's like you have that compassion for what it is other people are doing, and then you can fearlessly jump in to execute that, right? So like if I'm looking for Hollywood Regency, that may not be your jam, but you're
but I'm
hearing
a
me
girl.
and you're finding like you're diving into that fearlessly. It kind of reminds me that like really at the end of the day, your brand isn't about you. It's about like the value that you provide for other people, right?
And making them braver, helping them be brave. to live out the dream. Like, and that's what I find a lot of our clients, Jayden, like I recently had a client say to me, Barbara was like, I didn't have the courage to do this color in my
Mm,
home. And that was just such a, I don't know, it just felt so good. Like, you made me brave. And I was like, wow, because I'm brave, you're brave. Like, that was sort of
yeah.
a real eye opener to me, and sort of what kind of gifts I can bring to people to make their lives a little bit better and make them feel that they could achieve what they wanted and what their vision was. So
Yeah.
that's what I love most about what I do, is I'm really helping people fulfill their dreams and take risks and try new things and make their home feel more of a reflection of who they are. It gives them the courage to do it.
Yeah. And now, Christine, I know we could talk all day, so I'll start to wrap. But I'm so interested to hear from you because you're a creative at heart. You're a marketer and a brander at heart. And like we met, I remember one of those events we were doing in South Beach. It was like you were really sitting with big brands, right? Like Clorox's and I think the Pepsis of the world, and helping them incorporate these big consumer-facing brands into the Telemundo and the Telemundo show brands. So, for all of your years working with brands, being a steward and helping other brands, what are some things that you see great marketers and great consumer facing brands do that you think, hey, any one of us, whether we're working in corporate or we're a founder, we could use that same technique to build our own professional and personal brand?
Vulnerability.
Mm,
I think when a
say
brand
more.
says, I don't know, or, they make an error. I mean, we've seen quite a few brands make a bunch of errors against their origin story, or how people perceive them, or who their audience really is.
Yeah.
Knowing your audience and showing up in a vulnerable, real way, to me, is the difference between, especially today where social media has us all very vulnerable and very open. What's really happening right now is, like, if you try to fake it, people will know. They will know,
Yeah.
and they will read that immediately. They spot a fake from very far away,
From a
right?
mile away, right?
I mean, for real. And then they're like, they're gonna call you on it. And being willing, and I put it to my team all the time, like, being a risk taker requires a lot of vulnerability. It requires the trust of your team and the trust of your audience. And I think that when you show up in that way, people root for you. Everybody
Yeah.
loves a dog. They love someone that doesn't know all the answers. They like when you show up asking questions with a national insatiable curiosity, to want to know more. So it's like, know your audience. And that goes to any business. That's like the
Mm,
first foundational thing you need to know. Know yourself and know your audience, and know
yeah.
where you want to meet in the middle, because that's where the best solutions come from. That's where the best ideas come from, is when you show up to a room and say, I don't have all the answers, but I'm here to discover them with you.
Ah, I love that, right? Know yourself, know the audience, and like figure out how you want to mash those things up, right? And that's almost like I love now in today's branding world. It's like, a brand times this brand, right? How do we come together in collabs? Now, I have a couple of quick fire questions for you, Christine. We've been talking all about your brand, the brand of Cherry Home Designs. What brand are you obsessed with as a consumer? What brand can't you live without?
Oh my gosh. Revlon Stay Current lipstick. Yeah.
And what shade?
Red currant, Stay Current. Oh,
Yay! And
actually,
so why are you obsessed with that Revlon lipstick?
because it stays all day, no matter what I do, through eating, through everything. It provides a solution for my life. With short hair, I'm very paranoid about not wearing makeup, so that's one of my big brands. Right now, my iPhone is the only thing that matters in my life. I mean, it's literally with me at all times because I work 24/7. So that's a brand I can't live without. And what else? Let's see. Oh gosh, there's so many, because like I work with so many things. Right now, I'm obsessed with Emma Shipley. I'm obsessed with Emma
Ooh,
Shipley because I love to find brands that inspire me. So she's a brand
yeah.
that's inspiring me right now, from London. She has some funky design, very fantasy, really bold colors. So I'm obsessed with her right now. That's a brand
Ooh,
I don't ever want to live without. And I'm putting her wallpaper in a job at a speakeasy I'm doing. So like I get to finally fulfill that fantasy dream I had of putting her work somewhere. So I'm very
Right. So
excited.
there you go. There's the collab, right? Cherry Home meets. If you were a type of car, what type of car would you be?
I'm a cherry red Mustang all day, fatback, 1960.
Ah. And why are you that cherry red Mustang?
Well, I've owned two of them. I think a Mustang is all American. It's a muscle car. It has power. It's fearless. It's edgy. It's sexy. It's like just the coolest car. It's like real deal. Like that's,
Yeah.
when you see a Mustang, you know it. You hear it. The growl is just so powerful. I love everything about a Mustang.
Oh, I love it. It's the real deal. And finally, Christine, what's the best career advice that you'd like to pass on to our listeners and viewers?
I used to have career advice ready to go because my career was so different. And I was saying to my team the other day, I was like, no, I haven't talked about my career in this way because it's so different. Like, how do I contextualize it now? But I think if I took the lessons from the past and the present and where I want to go in the future, it's like playing the long game. Look at your
Mm.
career as a series of skill building. And not every job is going to be your favorite. Not every job is going to be the one. And like people think when you graduate college, oh, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. Well, I could tell you after, 40 years of working, like everything that you do is a building block to the next thing. So
Mm.
I like what song says, if you can't be with the one you love the one you with. If you can't do what you love what you're doing and understand that part in your story, that everything you do and everyone you meet will play a part in your future story. So like enjoy the moment, and what you're learning and work every job like it's your own business. Like
Ah,
bring that spirit of hustle to it and you will stand out. People will discover your passion and care. And even if you are, packing up groceries, do it like you own the grocery store because
yeah.
it matters. It gets you noticed. And if you don't know something, don't tell people you don't know it. Go and learn it. There's so many resources that you have at your fingertips.
I
Jesus,
know
I
in
never.
today's world, you can learn anything, right?
I mean, like I didn't 5 years ago. I didn't know what a P pour was. I didn't know how to do epoxy. I didn't know how to silver leaf or gold leaf things. Like I've learned so much and taught myself with other educators and other people who are experts that are so generous with their time. They're willing to teach you. Go out and learn it. Teach yourself a new skill. Always spark that feeling of being a learner and being a student for life.
Oh, absolutely. I love
Not a
this.
lot,
Be a
but yeah.
learner. Think of the long game. It's a journey. If you don't love what you're doing, right? Love it for the moment and what you're learning from it. Christine Escribano, it was so great catching up with you. Now tell us if people want to learn more about you and Cherry Home Designs, where should they go?
You can go to our website, cherryhomedesigns.com. You can go to Instagram. I'm all over Instagram. I'm posting every week at Cherry Home Design. And all just PM me on LinkedIn, Christina Escribano.
Awesome. And check out the show notes for all of those links. Christine, thank you so much for sharing your amazing, fearless, and compassionate and edgy energy. I loved chatting with you.
Same here, Jason. It was such a pleasure to sort of reunite over this and congrats to you on the show. It's amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we'll be back in just a few moments with my final thoughts.
For over 25 years, Jayzen has coached, trained, and developed thousands of leaders and executives, helping them achieve their next career breakthrough. He's a featured speaker at global conferences and companies to help everyone bring their best, authentic self to work, show their value, and lead with their brand every day.
Well, I hope you loved my conversation with Christine Escribano. I could talk to Christine all day long because I love her energy and I love that her brand comes through. Whether it was watching that clip of her brand video that was up on LinkedIn or her live, honest, and raw conversation. Now, we could have just gone on talking all day, but you know what really stood out to me from the conversation with Christine? It was her ability to be really self-reflective, to hit the pause button and understand what is getting in her own way. Now, oftentimes I ask people, what's getting in the way of your career? And the honest answer is oftentimes you're getting in the way of your own success. I love that Christine was able to hone in that she had a self-limiting belief, right? She felt that throughout her life, she had to be a fighter and she had to get through and do all of these things. And guess what? That helped her survive. That helped her get through life. It helped her get through high school. It helped her get through the difficult corporate world, especially in the media and entertainment industry. But it was that moment that she realized that that belief that was helping her survive was inhibiting her from thriving. So I challenge you to think about what self-limiting beliefs you might still be holding. What is something that you have come to believe that has helped you survive through life, but currently following that belief and building actions and behaviors that drive from that belief might actually be holding you back from thriving and getting to your next career breakthrough. Well, that's our show for you today. If you loved what you heard, make sure that you are following us, liking us, and subscribing to us wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to watch it, make sure that you check us out on YouTube for the video feed. Of course, check me out on social media. I'm at Jayzen Patria on all platforms. And check me out on LinkedIn. Give me a connect or follow because I share tons of tips and tricks on how you can lead with your brand to your next career breakthrough. Now, most of all, and most importantly of all, in your career, do not be a boring old commodity like coffee. I want you to be uniquely you and a super premium brand like Starbucks.
You've been listening to Lead with Your Brand, the podcast that explores and uncovers exceptional career success stories and inspiring personal brand journeys. With your host, personal branding expert, inclusion advocate, keynote speaker, and author, Jayzen Patria. Thanks for listening, and we invite you to subscribe, follow, and share the podcast with your colleagues and employees. Learn more about Jayzen's book, Lead with Your Brand, Build Your Super Premium Personal Brand to Achieve Your Next Career Breakthrough at leadwithyourbrand.com.